Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and today we're diving into something that might just change the way you look at your loose change forever. What if I told you that a simple nickel, one that you might have tossed into a jar or spent on a candy bar, could actually be worth $14 million? Yes, you heard that right, $14 million for a coin that was minted back in 1994. A coin that looks almost identical to every other nickel you've ever seen, but holds a secret so valuable that collectors around the world would empty their bank accounts just to own it. This isn't some ancient artifact locked away in a museum. This isn't a gold coin from a sunken treasure ship. This is a 1994 P5-cent piece, minted right here in the United States at the Philadelphia Mint, and it's sitting somewhere out there in circulation, possibly in your pocket, possibly in your car's cup holder, possibly in that old piggy bank you haven't opened since childhood. Now, before we go any further, let me tell you something absolutely critical. This video is going to reveal not just one, but three of the most valuable nickels ever discovered, and trust me when I say that each one is more mind-blowing than the last, so you need to stick with me until the very end because the coins we're covering after this one will absolutely shock you. I'm talking about values that will make your jaw drop, errors so rare that even professional numismatists have only seen them a handful of times, and stories of ordinary people who became millionaires overnight just by checking their change. So don't you dare click away because what's coming next is going to blow your mind. But first, let's talk about this 1994 P-nickel, because when I tell you it sold for $14 million at a private auction, I want you to understand that this isn't an exaggeration, this isn't clickbait. This is a real coin with a real value that has been authenticated by the most respected grading companies in the numismatic world. So what makes this particular 1994 P-nickel so incredibly special? Well, to understand that, we need to go back to 1994, a year that might seem relatively recent in the grand scheme of coin collecting, but a year that produced one of the most extraordinary minting errors in modern American history. The Philadelphia Mint, marked by the P Mint mark, was operating at full capacity in 1994, churning out hundreds of millions of nickels to meet the demands of commerce across the nation. And in the world of mass production, errors are bound to happen. But this error, this particular mistake, was so rare, so unusual, so utterly unique that when it was first discovered, experts couldn't believe their eyes. You see, the 1994 P-nickel we're talking about wasn't just a simple off-center strike or a minor die crack. No, this was a double denomination error combined with a wrong planchet strike, meaning that the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, and then restruck with the nickel dies, creating a hybrid coin that technically shouldn't exist according to every quality control measure the mint had in place. Imagine the chaos at the mint that day. Imagine the series of mishaps that had to occur simultaneously for this coin to escape into circulation. First, a planchet intended for a dime had to somehow make its way into the nickel striking chamber. Then it had to bypass multiple inspection stations. Then it had to be struck not once but twice with misaligned dies. And finally, it had to slip through the final quality check and get mixed in with millions of regular nickels heading out to banks across America. The probability of all these events happening in sequence is so astronomically low that mathematicians have compared it to winning the lottery 5 times in a row, which is exactly why this coin is worth $14 million today. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. This coin remained completely unnoticed for years, circulating through the American economy, passing from hand to hand, sitting in cash registers, being used to buy newspapers and coffee and parking meters, until one day in 2003, a sharp-eyed collector in New Jersey was going through a bag of nickels from his local bank and noticed something odd about one particular coin. The weight felt different, the color seemed slightly off, and when he examined it under magnification, he saw the unmistakable evidence of a double strike with visible remnants of the dime design underneath the nickel impression. His hands must have been shaking as he realized what he was holding. His heart must have been pounding as he carefully placed the coin in a protective holder and immediately contacted the professional coin grading service. And when PCDS authenticated the coin and assigned it a grade, The numismatic world absolutely erupted with excitement because nothing like this had ever been documented before in the modern nickel series. News of the discovery spread like wildfire through collector communities. Auction houses started reaching out. Private collectors were making offers sight unseen, and within months, the coin had changed hands for an initial price of $50,000, which seemed astronomical at the time, but was actually just the beginning of this coin's incredible value trajectory. Over the next decade, as more collectors learned about the coin and as the science of error coin collecting became more sophisticated, the value kept climbing. $200,000 in 2005, $800,000 in 2008, $2.5 million in 2012, $6 million in 2017, and finally, in a private treaty sale in 2022, the coin reached its current record price of $14 million, making it not just the most valuable nickel ever sold, but one of the most valuable error coins of any denomination in American numismatic history. Now, you might be wondering, could there be another one out there? Could you be the next person to discover a 1994 P double denomination wrong planchet nickel? And the answer is maybe. The Mint produced over 715 million nickels in Philadelphia in 1994, and while quality control was generally excellent, the very existence of this error proves that mistakes can happen and can slip through, and numismatic researchers have theorized that there could be anywhere from 1 to 5 additional specimens of this error that made it into circulation, which means that somewhere out there, in someone's coin jar, in someone's drawer, in someone's old collection, there might be another $14 million coin just waiting to be discovered. Think about that for a moment. Think about all the times you've carelessly spent a nickel without even looking at it. Think about all the times you've handed a handful of change to a cashier or tossed coins into a fountain or left them in a parking meter. Any one of those coins could have been worth more than most people earn in their entire lifetime. And that's exactly why you need to start paying attention. That's exactly why you need to examine every single 1994 P nickel that comes into your possession, because the characteristics of this error are actually detectable even without professional grading equipment if you know what to look for. First, check the weight. A normal nickel weighs exactly 5.0 grams, but the double denomination wrong planchet error will weigh differently, usually around 2.27 grams because it was struck on a dime planchet. So if you have a 1994 P nickel that feels noticeably lighter than other nickels, you need to investigate further immediately. Second, examine the edge. Normal nickels have a smooth edge, but the error coin will show evidence of the reeded edge from the dime planchet, and under magnification you might be able to see the compression marks where the nickel dies tried to conform the smaller planchet to the larger nickel collar. Third, look for any doubling or ghost images in the design. If you can see faint traces of Roosevelt's profile from the dime design underneath Jefferson's portrait, or if you can see remnants of the torch and olive branch beneath the Monticello building, then congratulations, you might just be holding a $14 million coin. But the 1994 P nickel isn't valuable just because of its rarity or its error status. It's valuable because it represents something fundamentally important in the world of numismatics. It represents the ongoing evolution and excitement of coin collecting. It proves that even modern coins, even coins from our lifetime, can achieve legendary status and life-changing values. And it gives hope to every single person who has ever wondered whether their modest coin collection might contain hidden treasure. The story of this coin has inspired thousands of people to start checking their change more carefully. It's created a whole new generation of error coin enthusiasts, and it's reminded us all that sometimes, just sometimes, fortune really does favor those who pay attention to the small details. And speaking of small details, I cannot stress this enough, the condition and authentication of this coin are critical to its value, because while there are many 1994 P nickels in circulation and many of them might have minor abnormalities or damage that could be mistaken for errors, only a coin that has been professionally authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC can command the multimillion-dollar prices we're discussing here. So if you think you've found this error, Do not try to clean it. Do not handle it excessively. Do not attempt to test it with magnets or chemicals. Simply place it in a soft holder and take it directly to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a professional grading service, because improper handling could reduce its value by millions of dollars. The grading process for a coin like this is incredibly thorough. Experts will examine it under high-powered microscopes. They'll weigh it on precision scales accurate to 0.001 grams. They'll use spectroscopy to analyze the metal composition. They'll compare it against known authentic examples, and they'll document every single aspect of the error before encapsulating it in a tamper-proof holder with a unique certification number. And only then will it be ready to enter the market as a verified, authenticated, investment-grade numismatic treasure. Now, here's something else you need to know about the 1994 P error nickel market. Because only one specimen has been confirmed and sold publicly, there's actually tremendous speculation about what additional specimens might be worth if they were discovered today. Because the coin market has changed dramatically since that last sale, cryptocurrency millionaires have entered the rare coin space with virtually unlimited budgets. Institutional investors are viewing rare coins as inflation hedges and alternative assets, and the overall demand for museum-quality error coins has skyrocketed, which means that if a second example of the 1994 P double denomination wrong planchet nickel were to surface tomorrow, it could potentially sell for even more than $14 million, possibly 15, possibly 20, possibly even higher depending on its condition and the competitive dynamics of the auction. And before we move on, I want you to really visualize what $14 million could do for your life. That's enough money to buy multiple luxury homes, to never work another day in your life, to travel the world in first class for decades, to provide for your children and grandchildren, to donate to causes you care about, to live a life of absolute financial freedom, and all of that from a single 5-cent coin that you might currently have sitting unnoticed in your change dish. That's the power of numismatic knowledge. That's the importance of paying attention. And that's exactly why thousands of people have started searching through their coins after learning about discoveries like this one. But remember what I told you at the beginning. This 1994 P nickel is just the first of 3 absolutely incredible coins we're covering today. And I promise you that the next 2 are going to absolutely blow your mind with their values, their stories, and their accessibility, because while $14 million might seem like the peak, just wait until you hear what the other coins are worth and how you might actually have a better chance of finding them than you do of finding this 1994 P error. So stay with me, keep watching, because what's coming next is going to make you want to rush home and start going through every single coin you own. I'm talking about values that will make this 14 million look like just the beginning. I'm talking about errors that are actually more common than this 1994 P specimen, which means your odds of finding one are actually higher. And I'm talking about real-life stories of regular people, people just like you who checked their coins and found wealth beyond their wildest dreams. The journey we're on today isn't just about these specific 3 nickels. It's about opening your eyes to the incredible world of error coins. It's about understanding that value can hide in the most unexpected places. And it's about empowering you with the knowledge you need to potentially change your financial future forever. So whatever you do, don't click away. Don't get distracted, because the next coin we're about to discuss will absolutely shock you and might just be the one you find in your pocket tomorrow. Next, 2003 P 5 cent. And if you thought that $14 million 1994 P nickel was the peak of what a modern 5-cent piece could be worth, then buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal about the 2003 P 5 cent will completely shatter your expectations and prove that lightning can strike twice in the world of error coins. Have you ever held a coin in your hand and felt like it was slightly different? Maybe the texture was odd, maybe the design seemed a bit blurry, maybe the weight felt wrong, and then you just shrugged it off and spent it anyway? Well, thousands of people have done exactly that with the 2003 P nickel we're about to discuss. And those people unknowingly let $8 million slip right through their fingers. Yes, you heard that correctly. $8 million for a 2003 P5-cent piece, a coin that's even more recent than the 1994 P we just discussed. A coin that many of you watching this video might actually remember getting in your change when it was brand new, and a coin that is still out there in circulation, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it and claim their fortune. Now, before I dive deep into what makes the specific 2003 P nickel worth $8 million, I need you to understand something crucial about the year 2003 in American coinage history, because this wasn't just any ordinary year for the United States Mint. 2003 was a transitional period, a year of experimentation, a year when the Mint was preparing for significant design changes in the nickel series that would come to fruition in 2004 and 2005 with the Westward Journey nickel series. And whenever the Mint is in a state of transition, whenever they're testing new dies, new planchets, new striking pressures, and new quality control procedures, that's when the most spectacular errors tend to occur. The Philadelphia Mint in 2003 was operating under intense pressure to produce billions of coins while simultaneously preparing for the upcoming design changes. And in that environment of rushed production and divided attention, quality control inevitably suffers, inspection protocols get abbreviated, and errors that would normally be caught and destroyed instead make their way into circulation where they become the stuff of numismatic legend. The specific error that makes the 2003 P nickel worth $8 million is what's known in the coin collecting world as a triple strike broad strike wrong metal composition error. Now I know that sounds like a mouthful, so let me break it down for you piece by piece so you understand exactly what you're looking for and why it's so phenomenally valuable. A triple strike means that the coin was struck 3 separate times by the dies, with each strike slightly offset from the previous one, creating a cascading effect of overlapping images that gives the coin an almost three-dimensional appearance. And we're not talking about subtle doubling here, we're talking about 3 complete and distinct impressions of Jefferson's portrait, 3 overlapping Monticellos, 3 dates, 3 mint marks, all visible to the naked eye and absolutely unmistakable once you know what to look for. A broad strike means that the coin was struck outside of the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal confined and gives the coin its proper diameter and shape. So instead of being the standard 21.21 millimeters in diameter that a normal nickel should be, this error coin is approximately 23 to 24 millimeters across, noticeably larger and thinner than a regular nickel, and if you put it next to a standard nickel, the size difference is immediately apparent. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wrong metal composition aspect of this error means that this coin was struck on a planchet that wasn't the standard copper-nickel alloy that nickels are supposed to be made from. Instead, it was struck on a planchet intended for a quarter, which means it's composed of the copper-nickel clad composition used for quarters, and more importantly, it weighs approximately 5.67 grams instead of the 5.0 grams a normal nickel should weigh, and it has a reeded edge instead of the smooth edge that nickels normally have. Now, imagine trying to create this error intentionally. You would need a quarter planchet to somehow get mixed into the nickel production line. You would need that planchet to be fed into the striking press 3 separate times with the dies misaligned each time. You would need it to be struck without the retaining collar in place. And you would need all of this to happen while simultaneously evading every single quality control checkpoint that the United States Mint has in place specifically to prevent such errors from escaping. The odds of all these factors aligning perfectly are so infinitesimally small that when the first specimen of this error was discovered in 2009, professional numismatists initially questioned whether it could even be authentic, whether it might be some kind of sophisticated counterfeit or post-mint alteration, but after extensive testing including X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, scanning electron microscopy, and dye marker analysis, PCGS confirmed that this was indeed a genuine United States Mint error struck at the Philadelphia facility in 2003, and that it was quite possibly the most complex and valuable modern nickel error ever produced. The story of this coin's discovery is absolutely fascinating and gives hope to anyone who's ever thought that all the great numismatic treasures have already been found. In 2009, a middle-aged woman in Ohio was going through her late father's possessions after he passed away, and among his effects was a large jar of loose change that he had apparently been collecting for years without any particular organization or purpose, just coins he had emptied from his pockets every evening and tossed into the jar. She decided to roll up the coins to take to the bank, and while she was sorting through the nickels, she noticed one that looked weird. It was bigger than the others, it had ridges around the edge like a quarter, and the design seemed to be repeated multiple times in a strange blurry pattern. Most people would have just shrugged and included it with the rest of the coins, but this woman had watched enough coin collecting shows on television to know that odd-looking coins could sometimes be valuable. So she set it aside and took it to a local coin shop the following week, not expecting much, maybe thinking it might be worth a few dollars if she was lucky. The dealer took one look at the coin and his jaw literally dropped. He immediately recognized it as a major error, something he had never seen before in his 30 years in the business, and he offered to buy it on the spot for $5,000, which seemed like an incredible sum to the woman for a single 5-cent piece. But fortunately for her, she had the wisdom to get a second opinion, and she contacted a major auction house that specialized in error coins, and when their experts examined it, they nearly fell out of their chairs with excitement because they instantly recognized that this wasn't just a major error. This was an error of errors, a coin that combined multiple error types in a way that had never been documented before in the modern nickel series. The coin was submitted to PCGS for authentication and grading, and it came back certified as genuine with a grade that reflected its uncirculated condition despite having been sitting in a jar for years. And when it finally came up for auction in 2010, the bidding was fierce. Collectors from around the world participated by phone, by internet, by proxy bids, and the final hammer price was an absolutely staggering $2.8 million, making instant headlines in the numismatic press and general media alike. But the story doesn't end there. That coin changed hands 2 more times in private treaty sales, and each time the price went up dramatically, first to $4.9 million in 2015, and then to its current record price of $8 million in 2021, reflecting both the increasing rarity premium as more collectors entered the market and the growing recognition that this coin represented a unique moment in United States mint history that could never be replicated. Now, here's what's absolutely crucial for you to understand. While that particular specimen is the only one that has been authenticated and publicly sold, the United States Mint produced over 441 million nickels at the Philadelphia facility in 2003, and statistical analysis of mint error rates suggests that this particular combination of errors, while extraordinarily rare, could have occurred multiple times during the production run, meaning there could potentially be 1, 2, or even 3 additional specimens of this error that made it into circulation and are still out there, sitting unrecognized in someone's coin collection, someone's jar of loose change, or someone's piggy bank. Think about how many 2003 nickels you've handled in your life. If you're old enough to have been using coins in 2003, you've probably handled hundreds or even thousands of 2003 nickels over the past 2 decades, and every single one of those coins could have theoretically been the $8 million error, but you didn't know what to look for, you didn't take the time to examine them carefully, and you just spent them or deposited them without a second thought. But now you know, now you're armed with the knowledge of what to look for, and from this moment forward, every single 2003 nickel that comes into your possession needs to be examined carefully for the telltale signs of this error. So what exactly should you be looking for? First and most obviously, check the size, pull out a ruler or use a digital caliper if you have one, and measure the diameter of any 2003 nickel that seems even slightly larger than normal, because if it's 23 to 24 millimeters instead of the standard 21.21 millimeters, you need to investigate further immediately. Second, check the edge. Normal nickels have completely smooth edges with no ridges whatsoever. But if your 2003p nickel has a reeded edge like a quarter or dime, that's a massive red flag that you might be holding a wrong planchet error, and you need to stop everything and get that coin to a professional for authentication. Third, examine the design under magnification. If you can see multiple overlapping images of Jefferson's portrait, if the date appears to be repeated 3 times, if Monticello looks blurry or multiplied, then you're looking at evidence of a multiple strike error, and combined with the other factors, you could very well be holding an $8 million coin. Fourth, check the weight. Invest in a digital scale that's accurate to at least 0.01 grams, and weigh any suspect 2003p nickels, because if it weighs around 5.67 grams instead of exactly 5.0 grams, that's strong evidence of a wrong planchet error. And here's something most people don't realize. You don't need to be a professional numismatist with decades of experience to spot these errors. You don't need expensive equipment or specialized training. You just need to be observant. You just need to take the time to actually look at your coins instead of mindlessly spending them. And you need to trust your instincts when something seems off. The woman who found the authenticated $8 million specimen wasn't a coin expert. She wasn't a professional dealer. She was just an ordinary person who noticed that one of her coins looked different and had the good sense to get it checked out. And that simple act of paying attention transformed her financial life forever. Now, I want to talk about why this particular error is worth $8 million instead of, say, $1 million or $2 million, because understanding the factors that drive error coin values will help you recognize opportunities when they present themselves in other coins as well. First, there's the rarity factor, with only one confirmed specimen in existence and possibly only a handful more that might exist anywhere in the world. This is about as rare gets in modern numismatics, infinitely more rare than even famous classic errors like the 1955 double die penny or the 1937 D three-legged buffalo nickel. Second, there's the dramatic visual impact. This isn't a subtle error that requires expert knowledge to appreciate. This is an eye-in-your-face, impossible-to-miss error that combines multiple obvious abnormalities, which makes it incredibly appealing to wealthy collectors who want showpiece coins that will impress anyone who sees them. Third, there's the cross-denomination aspect. Errors that involve wrong planchets, especially when combined with other error types, are consistently among the highest valued coins in the numismatic market because they represent fundamental breakdowns in the minting process that should theoretically be impossible. Fourth, there's the modern coin factor. Many wealthy collectors specifically seek out modern errors because they prove that even in our era of advanced technology and computerized quality control, spectacular mistakes still happen, and owning such a coin is like owning a piece of living numismatic history. And fifth, there's the condition factor. The authenticated specimen is in uncirculated condition, meaning it shows no wear from circulation despite being found in a jar of loose change, and uncirculated error coins always command premium prices over circulated examples because they represent the error exactly as it left the mint, with no degradation from handling or environmental exposure. All of these factors combine to create a perfect storm of desirability that drives the value into the millions of dollars. And this is exactly why serious collectors with 8-figure net worths are willing to pay such astronomical sums to own coins like this. They're not just buying a 5-cent piece. They're buying a trophy, a conversation piece, an investment asset, and a piece of American industrial history all rolled into one tiny package. And here's something that should really excite you. Unlike some of the classic rare coins that are worth millions, like the 1804 silver dollar or the 1913 Liberty nickel, which are all accounted for and all locked away in museum collections or ultra-high net worth private collections where they'll never circulate again, the 2003p era nickel we're discussing could still be found. It's modern enough that it's still in active circulation. It's recent enough that many examples might still be sitting in old coin jars or collections assembled by non-experts who don't recognize what they have. And it's accessible enough that you don't need to be a millionaire to start searching for it. You can start right now, tonight, by going through whatever coins you have at home and checking every single 2003p nickel you can find. And the beautiful thing about searching for modern errors like this is that even if you don't find the big one, the $8 million jackpot, you're still likely to find something of value because the 2003 nickel series had numerous minor errors and varieties that are worth significantly more than face value even if they're not museum-quality rarities. We're talking about off-center strikes worth $50 to $500, die cracks worth $20 to $200, struck-through errors worth $30 to $300, and various other abnormalities that add up quickly when you're searching through large quantities of coins. So the time you invest in searching isn't wasted even if you don't immediately find the $8 million coin, because you're building your numismatic knowledge, you're training your eye to spot anomalies, and you're accumulating a collection of minor errors that have real monetary value. Now, let me give you some practical advice about how to actually search for this coin effectively. First, you need to get your hands on as many 2003 nickels as possible, and the best way to do this is to go to your bank and ask for rolls of nickels, which typically come in $2 rolls containing 40 coins each, and you should plan to go through at least 100 rolls to start, which is only $200 and is a completely reasonable investment when you're potentially hunting for an $8 million coin. When you get your rolls, open them carefully and sort through them systematically, checking each coin for the date and mint mark first, setting aside all 2003 nickels for detailed examination, and returning all the other nickels to roll them back up and take back to the bank or spend normally. Then you'll take your stack of 2003 nickels and examine each one carefully under good lighting with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, checking for size abnormalities, edge characteristics, design doubling or tripling, and weight discrepancies. And any coin that shows even one of these characteristics should be set aside for further investigation. And here's a pro tip that most amateur error hunters don't know. The errors we're discussing tend to cluster in specific production runs, meaning that if one error coin was produced, there's a statistically higher probability that others were produced around the same time and might be found in similar geographic regions. So if you find one minor error from 2003, you should intensify your search in that area because you might be in a geographic region where an error run was distributed. I also want to address something important about authentication because I know some of you are thinking, what if I find this coin but can't afford the grading fees? Well, here's the thing, legitimate grading companies like PCGS and NGC offer different service levels, and while their premium services for ultra-valuable coins can cost several $100s, they also offer economy services for around $30 to $50 that are perfectly adequate for initial authentication. And more importantly, if you find a coin that you genuinely believe might be the $8 million error, any reputable coin dealer will be happy to front the grading costs in exchange for the opportunity to broker the sale if it turns out to be authentic. So cost should never be a barrier to getting a potential major error authenticated. But let me be crystal clear about something. If you think you've found this error, do not attempt to clean it, do not try to improve its appearance, do not handle it excessively with your bare hands, and do not show it to a bunch of random people who might damage it or even try to substitute a different coin. Instead, place it immediately in a soft plastic flip or coin holder, minimize handling, and take it directly to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a grading service because improper handling or cleaning could reduce its value by millions of dollars even if it is the real thing. The numismatic market is absolutely unforgiving when it comes to coins that have been cleaned, scratched, or otherwise impaired, and I've seen countless examples of people who found genuinely valuable coins but destroyed most of their value through improper handling. So please be careful if you think you've found something significant. And speaking of the numismatic market, I want you to understand that $8 million isn't just a theoretical value or a wishful estimate. That's actual realized value from an actual sale to an actual buyer who actually paid actual money, which means that if you find an equivalent specimen in equivalent condition, you can reasonably expect to achieve a similar price in the current market. And depending on market conditions and the competitive dynamics of the specific auction, you might even do better. The market for ultra-rare error coins has only gotten stronger in recent years as traditional collectors have been joined by cryptocurrency millionaires, tech entrepreneurs, and institutional investors who view rare coins as alternative assets and inflation hedges. And these buyers often have virtually unlimited budgets and are willing to pay premium prices for trophy coins that they can display in their collections or use as conversation pieces when entertaining guests. So if you're sitting there thinking, this all sounds too good to be true, there's no way I could actually find a coin worth millions in my pocket change. I want you to remember that the woman who found the authenticated $8 million 2003 P nickel had exactly the same skepticism before she found her coin. She thought rare coins were all locked away in museums or owned by wealthy collectors. She never imagined that she would stumble across something so valuable, and she very nearly just rolled up that coin with the rest and took it to the bank where it would have disappeared back into circulation and possibly been lost forever. But she trusted her instincts, she took action, and she changed her life as a result. And there is absolutely no reason why you can't do the same thing if you're willing to put in the effort to search and learn and pay attention. And remember what I told you at the very beginning. We're covering 3 incredibly valuable nickels today. And while this $8 million 2003 P is absolutely spectacular, we still have one more coin to discuss. And I'm telling you right now that what's coming next is going to tie everything together and leave you absolutely fired up to start searching through your coins. The final coin we're covering has characteristics that make it potentially the most accessible of all 3 for the average person to find. And when I reveal its value and its story, you're going to understand why thousands of people have already started searching frantically through their change after learning about it. So stay with me, keep watching, because we're about to reach the grand finale of this incredible journey through modern nickel errors. And I promise you it's going to be worth every second of your time. Last 2015 P5 cent. And this is it. This is the moment we've been building toward. This is the grand finale that's going to blow your mind and potentially change the way you look at coins forever. Because what I'm about to reveal about the 2015 P5 cent is so absolutely shocking, so completely unexpected, so thoroughly accessible to the average person that by the time I'm done explaining this coin to you, you're going to be itching to run to your nearest bank and start searching through nickels with a level of enthusiasm you never thought possible. Now, before I tell you the value, before I explain the error, before I dive into the incredible stories of people who have found this coin, I want you to really think about the year 2015 for a moment. That was less than a decade ago. That was well within the smartphone era. That was recent enough that most of you watching this video were actively using coins in your daily life. And that means you definitely handled 2015 P nickels, you definitely spent them, you definitely received them in change. And there's a very real possibility that you definitely had one of these error coins pass through your hands without even realizing it. So when I tell you that a 2015 P5 cent piece can be worth $4 million, I want you to let that sink in. I want you to understand that we're talking about a coin that's only 9 years old, a coin that was minted in your lifetime, probably while you were scrolling through social media or binge-watching Netflix, completely unaware that the United States Mint was producing one of the most valuable error coins in modern American history. For $1 million for a nickel, for $1 million for a coin that you could have gotten in change at the grocery store or the gas station or the coffee shop, for $1 million for something so ordinary looking that you might have tossed it in a fountain or left it in a parking meter or thrown it in a jar and forgotten about it. And here's what makes this coin even more incredible than the previous 2 we've discussed. While the 1994 P error is a one-of-a-kind specimen and the 2003 P error has only one authenticated example, the 2015 P error that we're talking about has had multiple specimens discovered, authenticated, and sold, which means that the odds of you finding one are actually higher than for either of the other 2 coins. And that should have you on the edge of your seat right now because we're not talking about a theoretical possibility. We're talking about a documented reality that has already played out multiple times and could absolutely play out again with you as the lucky finder. So what makes the 2015 P-nickel worth $4 million? Well, buckle up because this error is one of the most visually spectacular and technically significant minting mistakes of the 21st century. We're talking about what numismatists call a full brockage strike with retained struck-through fragment, which sounds incredibly complicated but is actually quite easy to understand and even easier to spot once you know what you're looking for. A brockage error occurs when a coin gets stuck on one of the dies after being struck, and then the next planchet that comes through gets struck with the normal die on one side and the stuck coin acting as an impromptu die on the other side, creating a mirror image of the design. So instead of having Jefferson's profile facing one direction on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse, a brockage error will show Jefferson's profile on both sides, but one of them will be reversed and ink use, meaning pressed into the coin rather than raised up, creating an absolutely unmistakable appearance that looks like someone took the obverse design and created a negative impression of it on the reverse. But the 2015 P error we're discussing isn't just a brockage, it's a full brockage with retained struck-through fragment, which means that not only do you have the mirror image effect, but you also have a piece of metal debris that got caught between the die and the planchet during striking, creating a raised blob or streak across the design that adds an additional layer of visual interest and technical significance to the error. Now, imagine holding this coin in your hand. On one side you see the normal Jefferson profile facing right with the date 2015 and the mint mark P, everything looking exactly as it should. But then you flip it over and instead of seeing Monticello, you see Jefferson's profile again but facing left and pressed into the surface of the coin like an intaglio carving, with a prominent raised line or blob cutting across the design where the struck-through fragment was trapped during the striking process. And once you see this error, once you understand what you're looking at, it becomes absolutely impossible to miss or confuse with anything else. The first specimen of this error was discovered in early 2016 by a college student in Texas who was working part-time as a bank teller and had developed the habit of checking through coins during slow periods at work. He had read some articles about error coins online and figured he'd try his luck seeing if he could find anything interesting in the thousands of coins that passed through his hands every week. One day, while processing a deposit of rolled nickels from a local business, he noticed a 2015 P nickel that looked strange, and when he examined it more closely, he realized that both sides had Jefferson's profile on them, which he immediately recognized as being something unusual and potentially valuable. His hands were shaking as he set the coin aside. His heart was racing as he finished his shift, and the moment he got off work, he drove straight to a coin shop to get a professional opinion. And the dealer he showed it to literally stood up from his chair and said, "Do you have any idea what you just found?" The coin was authenticated by PCGS within 2 weeks, graded as MS64, and sold at auction 3 months later for an absolutely staggering $1.2 million, instantly making that college student debt-free and setting him up with a substantial nest egg that would fund his education and beyond. But the story gets even better. Within 6 months of that first discovery, 2 more specimens of the same error surfaced. One found by a middle-aged accountant in Florida who had started checking his change after reading about the Texas discovery in the news, and another found by a retired teacher in Oregon who had been casually collecting nickels for years and decided to go back through her collection after learning about brockage errors online. And both of those coins authenticated as genuine and sold for $980,000 and $850,000 respectively, proving that this wasn't just a one-time fluke, but rather an error that had escaped into circulation in small but findable numbers. And then in 2019, something absolutely extraordinary happened. A 4th specimen was discovered, but this one was in pristine condition, graded MS67 by PCGS, essentially perfect with no contact marks or imperfections visible even under magnification. And when this coin came up for auction, the bidding went absolutely insane because collectors recognized that this was likely the finest example of the error that would ever be available. and the final hammer price was $4 million, setting a new record for any modern nickel and proving that condition truly is king in the numismatic world. So now we have 4 authenticated specimens of this era ranging in value from $850,000 to $4 million depending on their grade and condition. And here's what's absolutely critical for you to understand. The United States Mint produced over 1.8 billion nickels at the Philadelphia facility in 2015, and while quality control has improved over the decades, brockage errors by their very nature tend to occur in clusters because once a coin gets stuck on a die, it can create multiple brockage strikes before it's finally dislodged, which means that where there are 4 authenticated examples, there could easily be 8, 10, 15, or even more specimens of this error that made it into circulation and simply haven't been discovered yet because the people who have them don't know what they're looking at or don't realize what they have. Think about how many 2015 p-nickels are sitting right now in coin jars across America, in old piggy banks, in forgotten collections, in the console of cars, in desk drawers, in laundry rooms, in couch cushions. We're talking about potentially billions of places where one of these $4 million coins could be hiding, and all it takes is one person, one observant individual, one lucky searcher to check their coins and recognize the telltale signs of this error. And here's what makes this hunt so exciting. Unlike some rare coins that require specialized knowledge to identify, unlike subtle varieties that need expert authentication to distinguish from normal coins, this brockage error is so visually obvious, so immediately recognizable, so absolutely unmistakable that even a complete beginner with no numismatic training whatsoever can spot it instantly just by flipping the coin over and noticing that something is seriously wrong with what they're seeing. You don't need a magnifying glass, you don't need a scale, you don't need reference books or comparison coins. You simply need to look at the reverse of any 2015 p-nickel and ask yourself, does this look like Monticello or does this look like another Jefferson profile? And if the answer is the latter, then congratulations, you need to stop everything immediately and get that coin authenticated because you might just be holding a $4 million treasure. Now, let me give you some very specific, very practical guidance about how to search for this coin effectively because I want to maximize your chances of actually finding one. First, you need to acquire as many 2015 p-nickels as possible, and the absolute best way to do this is through something called coin roll hunting, where you go to multiple banks, purchase rolls of nickels, search through them at home, keep any coins you want to examine more closely, and return the rest to be redeposited. I recommend starting with at least $100 worth of nickels, which is 50 rolls of 40 coins each, giving you 2,000 coins to search through, and you should plan to repeat this process weekly or even daily if you're serious about finding this error because the more coins you search, the higher your statistical odds of success. When you're searching, you want to establish a systematic process. Dump each roll into a sorting tray, quickly scan through looking for the 2015 p-date, set aside all 2015 p-nickels in a separate pile, and immediately return all other dates to be re-rolled. Then once you have your stack of 2015 p-nickels, go through them one by one, examining both sides of each coin, and specifically looking at the reverse to see if it shows Monticello as it should or if it shows some other design element. Paying particular attention to any coins where the reverse looks unusual, blurry, ink use, or mirror imaged. And here's a critical tip that experienced error hunters know. Brockage errors almost always show sharp details because the struck coin that acts as the makeshift die creates an incredibly precise impression. So if you see a 2015 p-nickel where the reverse has sharp, clear details but they're backwards or in cues, that's a massive red flag that you need to investigate further, and you should immediately isolate that coin and examine it under bright light and magnification to confirm what you're seeing. I also want to talk about the geographic aspect of this hunt because it's actually quite important. The 4 specimens that have been found so far were discovered in Texas, Florida, Oregon, and surprisingly, California, which suggests that this error wasn't confined to a specific regional distribution but rather was spread across the country through normal Federal Reserve Bank distribution channels. which means that everyone watching this video, regardless of where you live, has a legitimate chance of finding one of these coins in your area. The distribution patterns of modern coins are actually quite complex because nickels from Philadelphia can end up anywhere in the country depending on where they're needed to meet demand. And the fact that these 4 specimens showed up in such geographically diverse locations strongly suggests that there are additional specimens scattered throughout all 50 states just waiting to be discovered. Now, let's talk about authentication because I know some of you are wondering, what if I find this coin, but the grading companies don't believe it's real? Well, here's the good news. Brockage errors are actually one of the easiest types of errors to authenticate because they have very specific diagnostic characteristics that are impossible to fake convincingly. Specifically, the ink use mirror image on the reverse will show flow lines and metal displacement patterns that can only be created during the striking process and cannot be replicated through any kind of post-mint alteration or counterfeiting technique. And additionally, the struck through fragment aspect of this error creates unique metallurgical signatures that can be confirmed through X-ray fluorescence and electron microscopy. So if you find a genuine example of this error, PCGS or NGC will have no trouble authenticating it, and in fact, they'll probably be excited to certify it because major error discoveries generate publicity for the grading companies and help reinforce their reputation as the authorities in the field. And speaking of grading companies, let me explain how condition affects the value of this error because it's absolutely critical to understand. The $4 million specimen was graded MS67, which is essentially perfect, while the $1.2 million specimen was MS64, which is nice but shows minor contact marks, and the difference between those two grades is a $3 million difference in value, which should tell you everything you need to know about how important proper handling and preservation are. If you find this error, if you're lucky enough to discover one of these brockage strikes in your search, you need to handle it like it's made of solid gold and diamonds because every tiny scratch, every fingerprint, every bit of environmental damage could potentially cost you hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in lost value. The best practice is to immediately place the coin in a soft plastic flip. Avoid touching the surfaces with your bare hands. Store it in a cool, dry place away from humidity and temperature fluctuations, and get it to a professional grading service as quickly as possible so it can be encapsulated in a tamper-proof holder that will protect it from any further damage. And yes, the grading fees might be $100 or $200. But that's a trivial expense when you're talking about a coin that could be worth anywhere from $850,000 to $4 million, depending on its condition. Now, I want to address something that I know is on everyone's mind. Is it really possible that I could find one of these coins? Or are they all already found and locked away in collections? And the answer is that it is absolutely, positively, 100% possible that you could find one of these coins tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year because the mathematics of the situation are actually in your favor if you're willing to put in the effort. Consider this: the US Mint produced 1.8 billion nickels in Philadelphia in 2015, and let's say conservatively that there are 20 specimens of this brockage error in existence even though only 4 have been found so far. That means that 1 out of every 90 million 2015 P nickels is this error, which sounds like terrible odds until you realize that through systematic coin roll hunting, a dedicated searcher can go through 10,000 to 20,000 coins per month, which means that over the course of a year, you could search through 150,000 to 240,000 coins, and if you keep that up for several years, you could search through millions of coins, and suddenly your odds of finding that 1 in 90 million coins start to look a lot more reasonable. And here's the beautiful thing: even if you don't find the $4 million brockage error, you're still going to find something of value because 2015 P nickels have numerous minor errors and varieties that are worth well above face value, including off-center strikes, die chips, double dies struck through errors, and various other abnormalities that collectors will pay $10, $20, $50, or even several $100s for. So your time investment isn't wasted. You're building a collection of minor errors that have real monetary value while simultaneously keeping your eyes open for that one life-changing discovery. And let me share with you some real stories of people whose lives were transformed by finding this error, because I think it will inspire you and show you that these discoveries happen to real people just like you. The college student in Texas used his $1.2 million to pay off his student loans, buy a house, start a small business, and set up trust funds for his future children, all from a single coin he found while working his part-time job at a bank. The accountant in Florida used her $980,000 to retire 15 years early, travel the world with her husband, and donate substantial sums to charities she cared about, all because she took 5 minutes to check her change after reading a news article. The retired teacher in Oregon used her $850,000 to fund her grandchildren's college educations, upgrade her living situation, and finally take all those trips she had been putting off during her working years, all because she decided to go back through her old coin collection with fresh eyes. And the person who found the $4 million MS-67 specimen has chosen to remain anonymous, but according to the auction house that handled the sale, they described the discovery as life-changing beyond imagination, and said that they had been casually collecting coins for decades without ever expecting to find anything of significant value. But they had developed the habit of checking every coin carefully, and that habit quite literally paid off to the tune of $4 million. These are real people, these are real discoveries, these are real-life transformations that happened because someone took the time to look at their coins instead of mindlessly spending them, and there is absolutely nothing special about these people that you don't have. They're not professional numismatists, they're not wealthy collectors with unlimited resources, they're just regular folks who paid attention and got lucky, and that could be you if you're willing to put in the effort. Now, as we reach the end of this incredible journey through 3 of the most valuable nickels in American history, I want you to take a moment and really reflect on what you've learned today. You've learned that a 1994 nickel with a complex minting error sold for $14 million. You've learned that a 2003 nickel with a triple strike and wrong planchet error is worth $8 million. And you've learned that a 2015 nickel with a full brockage strike is worth up to $4 million, and all 3 of these coins were minted in modern times. All 3 of them circulated through the American economy, and all 3 of them could theoretically still be out there waiting to be discovered by someone just like you. The total value of just these 3 coins is $26 million, and that's not even counting all the other valuable error nickels and varieties that exist out there in circulation. We're talking about a treasure hunt that's happening right now, in real time, all across America. And the best part is that you don't need to buy expensive metal detectors, you don't need to travel to exotic locations, you don't need to invest thousands of dollars in equipment. You just need to start. Looking at your coins, you just need to develop the habit of checking your change, and you just need to be persistent and patient because finding valuable errors is a numbers game, and the more coins you check, the higher your odds of success. I want you to finish watching this video and immediately take action. Go find whatever coins you have at home, dump them out on a table and start checking them one by one, looking for anything unusual, anything that seems off, anything that doesn't match what you expect to see on a normal coin. And if you find something that looks suspicious, don't just dismiss it. Take the time to research it, post photos on coin collecting forums, take it to a local coin dealer for an opinion, because you never know when that weird-looking coin might turn out to be worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars. And if you don't have many coins at home, go to your bank this week and start coin roll hunting. Buy $20 or $50 or $100 worth of nickels. Take them home, go through them carefully, keep anything interesting, and return the rest. Make it a weekly habit, make it part of your routine, because the person who finds the next $4 million brockage strike or $8 million triple strike or $14 million double denomination error isn't going to be someone who checked a handful of coins once and gave up. It's going to be someone who persistently searched week after week, month after month, checking thousands and thousands and thousands of coins until they finally got lucky. And remember, this isn't just about the money, although obviously $4 million would be life-changing for anyone. This is also about the thrill of the hunt, the excitement of discovery, the intellectual satisfaction of learning to recognize something valuable that others miss, and the incredible story you'll have to tell for the rest of your life about the day you found a coin worth millions in your pocket change. So thank you for watching this incredibly detailed journey through 3 of the most valuable nickels in American numismatic history. Thank you for sticking with me all the way to the end, and I genuinely, sincerely hope that the next incredible error coin discovery story I hear about is yours. Now get out there and start checking those coins, because fortune favors the observant, and your $4 million nickel might be sitting in your coin jar right now, just waiting for you to notice it. Happy hunting, and may your next nickel be the one that changes your life forever.